Hi, Hayden here, and it's kind of an experimental part of the video because I'm using my selfie stick. I have the microphone on and just playing around with that. But I wanted to do an introduction to a video you're about to see, and I'm going to be wearing the bright red shirt and everything else. But I'm trimming up this tree here. It's going to be quite obvious, but a special guest star makes an appearance, and it's an insect that basically lands on my head. Now, here's the kind of the fun part of this video is that insect was on a branch that I dropped down over in this area over here, right? Now, that wood, once I dropped it and trimmed it up, was going over to a fire pit. Any insects that are in that wood are going to get, destroyed in the fire like the wood, getting rid of it. When I see an insect, I try to save it. In all honesty, that's just me. I try to save it. They're doing a good job out here on the property. And my agreement with the bugs is if you're outside, it's yours. If you're inside, you're mine. So that's all. You don't come inside the house, but if you're out here, it's all yours. And this insect perfectly blended in with the tree, the bark of the tree here that it was living on, right? And I believe it was a praying mantis. So let me know in the comments below. But this little guy was hanging out here, guy, girl, whatever it is, was hanging out under the branch. And I never would have seen it. It was so perfectly camouflaged into the bark of the branch, I never would have seen it, but it moved. When it moved, I saw it, and then I basically gently knocked it off of the branch, and I said, hey, this is going over to the fire pit. You really don't want to be there. Well, lo and behold, that praying mantis ended up landing on my head somehow, some way. And in the video, I thought I knocked him off onto the ground a little bit, but did not. He was still hanging out there. So halfway through this video, through most of the end, you'll see him. Now I want to give you a little prologue of what happened after the fact. When I got done for the day, when I was done for the day and the whole thing was done, I'm not filming anything or recording anything. I checked out my clothing and taking my clothing off for the day and everything else. That little praying mantis was still on me. It was actually on my glove. I'm taking my gloves off and I'm seeing him there. I'm like, this is incredible. This little insect stayed with me all day. Didn't do any harm to me. Didn't get aggressive with me or anything like that. I don't know if praying mantises do that, but this little insect stayed with me and actually, did half my workday with me. And I was able to still save it and make sure that it had a home outside. So I just wanted to give you that little introduction that you're going to see a praying mantis walking all over my head in this video from about the halfway point on through the rest of the video. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do so. I greatly appreciate the growth on the network. And don't forget to make that comment below. Let me know you came by to say hi. Now, enjoy the video. Hi, Hayden here, and this video is going to be a little bit more about tree trimming, right? Tree trimming. It's fun to say. There's a whole bunch of stuff already I've already dropped down. That's really just a couple of branches, and I've cut a couple of them up into smaller pieces, and that's really what I was kind of talk about today, is I use different tools to get the job done in different ways and for different reasons, right? Not everything has to be done with the biggest, baddest chainsaw in the world. Not everything needs to be done with the latest and greatest in technology. Sometimes you want to just kind of enjoy the work that you're doing, get the job done, you get your physical exercise out of it as well. You sweat like a Dickens out here in the Central Florida sun during summer. And let's talk about a couple of the pieces of equipment that I have here. And you notice sitting on my shoulder here is a chainsaw. Now this is a 10-inch chainsaw, and it is also an electric one. But this can be run, I also have a 4-stroke electric, gas-powered engine that I can use to run this with. But this engine is this little guy right here. Right there in the center, this is a Ryobi, and it's part of the expanded package. I don't actually see a name of this thing. It's the RY40002, right? 40,002, right? 40,002. All right, so that's the, I guess, the number of this thing. But this is actually the electric engine. The battery pack goes on the back end. I've already used a 55-watt one. It probably has more juice in it, but when it slows down, I take it off, change the battery. This is a 2.6. Now, one thing I want to talk about here with using this, the 10-inch pole saw, the chainsaw on the end of it, if the chain stops, right, and you go to pull the trigger and nothing happens on it, you got to push down the safety thing and then push up on the trigger to get it going. If it stops, what I do is I take the battery, right, I just release it a little bit, right, put a little space on it, take it off the connector, put it back on, and then it usually works again. If I know it shouldn't be out of juice, it's just that the saw got bound up, it got stuck, it pulled too much on the thing, and for safety for the battery, the engine shuts off, taking the power from the battery, stops, saves the saw, saves the battery. and then just reset the battery and we're good to go. Again, I always want to mention on the batteries, I keep forgetting, but I want to mention every time, when I get done with the batteries and I take them back to the chargers to put them on the charger, if the battery has not had the opportunity to cool off, it will tell me that the battery's defective. The battery's not defective, it just didn't cool off. It's too hot because I've just been using it. Let the battery cool off, then put it on a charger, and it should recharge as normal. So if you let the thing sit off of the charger like 2 hours or something like that, maybe you can have that time, maybe you can't. But if you have that time to let the battery cool off, then put it on the charger, it'll be charged up pretty quickly. Depending on which charger system you have and everything, but the 40 volts charge up pretty quickly, I've noticed. It's pretty impressive, actually. Okay, so with this electric chainsaw, which can be connected, it is connected right here. All right, so where this attachment is and where this attachment is right here, this is for the handle. This is where you plug in the pole saw. Now, the pole saw comes with an extension. I use this to get the limbs down, and I take it off when I want to use the chainsaw as just a chainsaw. Rather than bringing the other chainsaw out too, I need to tighten the blade on that. Loosened it up the other day. But when I wanted to cut the larger, closer to the main part of the branch, when they were like 3 inches thick, I want to use the chainsaw because it's just too much power, energy on my part using the handsaw, which is right here. Now, this is also a Fisker's saw. And by the way, nobody compensates for me for this or anything. I'm just giving you my own honest opinion off of the stuff that I use. But I'm always open for sponsorships and big bag of money coming my way or something like that to help somebody out when they have a good product, right? Now, the Fisker's blade is very, very good. This one here has been very, very good to me. And I want to make a mention. I'm going to make a video on how I repaired my long pole saw that snapped, broke right in half. Basically, I cut a limb. That limb fell, but it caught the saw like on another limb and snapped the end of it right off. I fixed it. I have my pole saw back, and I actually removed that string. The string for chipping, clipping little tiny skinny limbs. Something like. Got like that built-in pair of scissors or something like that that'll cut something like this right off, so you don't have to use sawing power or whatever. I find that to be a waste of my time, and I thought it was part of the saw. I thought it was part of the sawing action. What did I know, right? But basically, no, I cut that off, or I untied the string. I kept the little thing so I could reattach it if I wanted to, but I probably won't. I'll probably just actually remove that device on there with that, for that little snipper on there. I'll remove that. But the Fisker's saw itself was easy enough to replace. I'm going to make a video on what I did and how I did it to repair that. Okay, as long as you have a piece of that end tube, you're good to go. All right. But anyways, with this, all I'm doing is trimming this up, and I'm trimming the stuff up that hits me in the face. Let me drop the saw ever so gently, and let's take a look over here. Sorry for the unevenness here. There we go. All right, so all these limbs right here that are hanging down, my extension pole fell. But anyways, all these limbs that are hanging down, if I'm riding the Toro, these are going to smack me in the face, right? And I cut the grass anyway. I'm just like bobbing and weaving like a prize fighter every time I go past these. And I got to go slow, so that slows me down, takes more time. There's a lot of trees on the property, too, where the grass is, so I got to do a lot of ducking, bobbing, and weaving around the branches that are hanging down. So I need to get those raised up, and you raise them up by trimming the branches down. Now, where these are, you'll see that these branches are pretty high, and they are. So I had to use the extension rod on the pole saw, the chainsaw, to get to that. But the branches are growing up, and then they start growing down. And then off of these ones here, these other ones grow down even further, and then I have what we see over here, the branches are smacking me in the face. So in order for me to get rid of those and have them gone for any length of time, I need to get up higher into the tree. That's why I have the ladder out here. And I don't go up high on the ladder because I'm using a chainsaw. And when I attach the extension rod to this thing, even though the chainsaw itself is very light, it gets very heavy very quickly. So you don't want to be playing around too much with that. Now, again, on the other part, once they're down, I use a chainsaw to knock them down. This is the opposite of the other option I was talking about in my previous video, where I'm cutting down a large. You saw me cut down a large branch. Cut down a large branch. A lot of the pieces of the thing were large too. It was a huge branch, right? So it was huge. It was like, the thing was like probably 30 feet long or whatever. And not a whole lot of the branches had thin branchlets growing off of them. So I basically used a chainsaw to trim everything up to take it to the fire pit. On this one here, because we're dealing with a whole lot of leaves, and those are the things that are smacking me in the face, those are pretty thin. They're really pretty thin. Like a vine of grapes or something like that, all the grapes at the end, but the thing that's holding them all together is really pretty thin stuff. Same thing here. So on this one here, it's the opposite routine, where instead of using like a handsaw to cut down a big branch maybe, and then use the chainsaw to chop it up real small, I'm using the chainsaw to drop the big branch, and then I go around in order to fill up my cart over here. Let's take a look at the polar cart in action, right? And I fill up the polar cart, and I do it little by little, right? Because I want to, you know, pack all the stuff in there the best I can. Let's get that even there. I want to pack it in, just, you know, pack them, rack them, pack them, and stack them in there as tight as I can. Take it over there and get the most stuff over to the burn pit as I can, right? Let's spin around. We'll get really crooked here. There's the house in the background, and back to cuttings. All right, so that's what I'm doing. I go out to the end of the branch, right, where all the leaves are, and I find out where they shoot off in two different, you know, branch off in two different directions. That makes it harder to pack it into the cart. So I want to make the package smaller. I trim things up going towards the main branch, and then when I get there, I shortened the chainsaw. I took out the extension pole. No, this is still pretty a long chainsaw, right? It's pretty much a long chainsaw. So what I do is I then cut the 3-inch branch in half with the chainsaw, and then I put that in the cart. So let me do some more cutting, and we'll see if I have anything more to say about that later on. We'll show you maybe some of what I did with this tree after the fact, all right? So hang on for the next clip, and we'll talk to you in a bit. All right, welcome back, and let's go ahead and show you. These are some limbs that I've chopped up. I've chopped off all the green stuff. You know, take the leafy stuff, take it over to the burn pit, and then this stuff here, I don't really want to take my time with the saw, the manual hand saw, so I'll go ahead and use the electric chainsaw. Now when I'm cutting the limbs when I'm cutting the main limb off, I do not put this thing around my neck. Something comes down and hits that saw and I'm on a ladder, it's taking me down with it. Or if I can't just let go with the saw, I can buy a new saw. Can't buy a new me. So you know, for that I go ahead and let the saw go and take this off. When I'm up on a ladder or I'm reaching up doing a big branch or something like that, I do not wear this strap. This is basically to take weight off of my arms, okay? And let's go ahead and cut some of these limbs up here into smaller bite-sized chunks. Okay, so you get the idea, right? For most of my cutting, to drop the limb originally, I use the pole saw with the extension on it. I make these alternative pieces, these little logs,
I make them about 6 to 8 feet long is what I try to do. Every now and then you'll see me looking at a log or a tree limb or something like that when I'm working. And you'll see, like, what's Ray doing there? I'm thinking about how big I want the log to be for the burn pit, because without a burn permit or all that, without a requirement for a burn permit, the fire has to be of a certain size, shape, and all that kind of stuff, and meet certain setbacks away from other trees, forests, occupied dwellings, vehicles, stuff like that. So you want to make sure that everything's going to fit. And if it fits in the polar cart, by the way, if it fits within the polar cart, it exceeds this, you know, it's a smaller size than it needs to be. If it fits in that polar cart right there, and it's a pretty big cart, if it fits in there, it absolutely positively will not require a burn permit, as long as I don't, you know, stack the thing 20 stories high or something like that and get it up. Now, by the way, the burn pit is, it's over there somewhere in that area, right? You might see some smoke wisping up over there. I've been taking this stuff, as I cut it up, I take it over load by load, drop it on the burn pit. The coals were hot enough for this morning to start this fire up pretty easily. All this stuff is pretty much burned up by the time I get back to the burn pit with another load. So, you know, the day is effective and efficient going on. I come by, pick up a load, take it over, drop it off. By the time I come back, get a new load in there and go, it's good. It's good for another load. It's good to go, and it's all burned up. Another thing I want to mention is using the handsaw on this stuff when I drop it down. Let me see here. Like I say, it's like, I'm sorry. I say a lot of limbs are like this small, you know, and really just, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 pulls across the saw, and it's done. And then I throw it in the cart. I also go by and I pick a limb up and I'll cut the limb off. I'll grab another limb in the same hand, cut that off, and grab another one. A lot of these limbs are pretty long. Well, oddly enough, I can't find a great example right now, but a lot of these limbs are pretty long. They might be about 6 feet long, but it's a skinny little limb, maybe not much bigger than a finger or two, you know, and in width, but it's long, you know, like this limb hanging on right here, you know, get that even. This one right here, look at that. If you look at the center of that limb, maybe a little up higher in the tree, it's not that wide, you know, but if you follow it all the way up to the main branch where it's connected, well, it's a pretty long branch. You know, it's a pretty long branch of that limb, you know. So just a couple of quick pulls on the saw, and you get a pretty big, you know, chunky piece of material to throw in the cart, you know, and take over to the burn pit, and it's good to go. So, you know, just the right tool for the right thing. Now, by the way, this chainsaw on the pole was not the easiest thing to use on here. The other chainsaw would have been easier to use to make these little cuts. This is a 10-inch chainsaw, and it's basically just for branching, you know, a limb. It's not made to really cut down a limb, but it can. It has. But it's really just for branching a limb. And then the bigger saw would be for a limb, or if it's too dangerous to use the chainsaw of any kind, then I go with the pole saw with the long handle on it, the Fiskars one. And once I drop it, I usually use, for all the leafy stuff, I use the, you know, the hand saw, also a Fiskars, right? Again, nobody's paying me for my opinions on these things, and I give you my honest opinion. If something's not that great, I'll tell you, and if something's working really well, I'll tell you that as well, but it's going to be my opinion, my way, right? I would definitely appreciate sponsorships, but I'm not a sellout. That's not going to happen. But also, if I don't like something, I probably won't review it at all. But anyway, but these Fiskars blades have been very, very good to me, so I'm very happy with those. Anyways, let me see in a little bit, and I'll show you what this looks like a little bit on the cleaner side of the tree compared to the other side, because I don't think I'm going to finish it today. It seems like I'm getting kind of winded, or I will be. All right, so hang on. I'll see you in the next clip. Hang tough. All right, back doing a little bit of cleanup around the tree here. Pretty much got most of everything out of here and on the burn pile. And I'm going to bring in my Fiskars pole saw. This is that one that got broken, and I made a repair to it. And you'll see that there's a piece missing here. That was for the string, so you could close this little pair of scissors. Here we go. That's the way it works. So you can use that to trim off a lot of really small stuff. But I found myself not using that very much. And just going a little higher on the tree and trimming back a little bit of a thicker part of the branch. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to trim down a few of these. I'll check it first, see if it's, you know, viable. And then if it is, I'll show you me pulling down a couple of these little limbs. All right, hang on. Okay, it seems like it is viable for me to show you. I got the fiskars hanging up there in the pole, in a branch. So I can show where I need to be. I'm going to try to cut off like 3 of these, show you what I do with that. And I might use the ladder to give myself a little bit of a distance from the tree limb that's going to fall. They're not that heavy, but a couple of them might be. So let's go see how much of this I can get on camera. All right. Let me bring my ladder over too. All right. All right, this one I'm about to cut down is a bit thicker than I'd like to have to deal with the pole saw, but let's go ahead, see if I can do it pretty quickly here. Okay, that was lucky. There's a, well, I'll tell you what, boy, this thing is taking a beating. It sure is cut. It's real nice. There's a really long branch here sticking out. I'll try to cut that off at the base right here too. All right, let's see if I can get this one. Well, that one surprised me. I'm pretty shocked that I got that one. When I do that last pull, I'm really trying to get the saw out of the way of the branch as it's falling. Oh, hot. It's kind of tiring to do this. All right, let me grab a few more of these branches. I'm going to lock the camera off like this. These lower parts of the branches are the ones that will hit me in the head when I'm sitting on a Toro back here. I'll try to pull a few of these branches off, lock the camera off right here, and I'll show you this scene, hopefully with a lot of that missing, okay? I'll save you having to watch that. Hang on. Okay, well, that's kind of funny. The last branch I dropped kind of landed on itself. My ladder's in there too, so let's check it out. There you go. Actually, what you see now in the distance is another tree. So I got rid of most of that brush, and the next part is to clean up this part here, which would also keep smacking me in the head. Now those branches go pretty far out, so I got to trim them up in. We'll see how that goes, but that's the idea. I love this pole saw. From Fisker's has been doing just a phenomenal job, really it has. And it's here you go, Fisker's. Here's your free shout out. And it's a pole saw, and it has that little cutter on the end of it for small branches. You can do that. Personally, I find that to be a pain in the neck, and that rope with the little plastic T-handle at the end has whipped around and whacked me in the hand a couple of times, and it kind of hurt rather severely for a few minutes. So I undid the string. You can tie it onto here. Ties in right through that slot right there. If I can get it in the camera. There we go. All right, so it goes right through there and allows you to pull this thing with a chain. There's a chain on this end here too. See the chain? And it pulls it around and gives a really good bunch of force to it to, you know, wrap it around my arm, pull it. But I find, in all honesty, I use the saw far more often. If it's a small enough branch, it's just a couple of strokes and the thing's down. It's off on the ground and ready for the burn pit. All right, so let me get this chopped up. I'll take that over to the burn pit too. And we'll just keep on cooking with gas. Actually, we'll keep on cooking with coals, right? That's going to wrap it up for this video. So you see me doing some more trimming around here. Pretty much on the 20 acres we got here. That's a lot of what I'll be doing for a long time to come. Get off me, bug. Get off. Little hitchhiker there. Now, I try to be careful with the bugs. Even the bugs, you know, I just try to scoot them off rather than like crushing a bug. They're here. If they're outside, it's theirs. If they're inside, sorry guys, you're all mine. But we like to get the job done with the bugs. The bugs, the insects and everything, they aerate the ground, they take care of the trees, they do what they do and get the job done. I don't see any insects doing harm to a tree. What I see are when parts of a tree are ill, either ants or other insects will get in there, and then of course they'll exacerbate or increase the speed of decay for the tree. And in all honesty, that's probably good for the environment. You know, the nutrients will come down, fall into the ground a little bit until I come along, take the thing over and throw it in a fire pit and get rid of it. But anyways, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Don't forget to give me that thumbs up, like this video, drop a comment below, let me know you came by to say hi. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate the growth on the network. And until I catch you in the next video, take care and be well.